guys, welcome here to another amazing little class. My co-host down there in the bottom, well, my bottom window, we have Mr. Xavier Burgos, U.S. Air Force veteran and rock star extraordinaire here. So welcome to the party. I'll be presenting today. My name is Chris. I am the owner and, well, one of the owners, my wife, the boss. She is the, no, I'm just kidding. I won't even go there today. But so we own No Boundaries Marketing Group. So today's class is going to be on creating a marketing plan. So we'll go ahead and get started. So let's skip through the fun little picture and let's get down to business. So first thing we're going to talk about today is the why. Most people will, if you've ever taken a class that I presented on, you're going to understand that I am a big fan of the why. What does that mean? Well, you know, really honestly, to get the buy-in from everybody, we have to understand why we are doing it. And so to help you guys understand the why, really, according to a survey completed by Articulate, and actually this was a survey I just pulled the other day. So a survey completed by Articulate, businesses who document their strategy are 538% more likely to report success than those who don't. That number just can't be ignored. I mean, I don't know any other way to shape it, slice it, or dice it. That is an impactful number that really gives you, hopefully, that 1-2 punch as to why you should pay attention to this class today. Now, I'm going to preface a couple of things. First of all, I don't think there's any wrong way per se to do a marketing plan. I think the important part is that, you know, you're learning. I think you're growing. There's any number of infinite ways. I've seen 12-step plans, 7-step plans, 5-step plans, and anywhere in between. Again, the big picture, mine's going to be 8 for you today, just so you guys know. But again, there's no right or wrong way per se to do that. I'm going to explain to you how I do my marketing plans and how I think they work best. But again, that's not to say this is the only way to do it. But I think the real takeaway here, 538% more likely to report success than those who don't do anything at all. So again, marketing, marketing is the key component in the success of every small business. Again, if we're talking growth, I don't care if your business is solely dependent on repeat and referral clients right now. I mean, statistically speaking, if you want some numbers behind that, we lose an average of 7 to 15% of our business every year for any number of reasons. So people moving on, businesses closing, this and that. So if you're in a B2B market, you know, that's a relative term for us. If you're a consumer or a B2C market, again, there's a whole nother slew of reasons why people come and go. The important thing to understand is that without visibility in the market, we're really going to struggle to grow our business and to achieve our goals. And that's the whole purpose behind these marketing plans, marketing strategy, whatever term you want to use, is having that game plan to go to market. So every successful company needs to have a well thought out business plan to outline your course of action. It's just that simple. I can tell you, and again, just being honest with everybody, when I first started out, I came from the corporate marketing side, thought I knew everything, thought, you know, I could just conquer the world and, you know, never even thought to do a business plan. And I can tell you, I have been schooled. I have been schooled by some of the best in this business. And, you know, the funny part is what I would like to say, as good as I am at this and as good at the strategy portion, you know, doing that business plan was, man, it was like a lawn dart to the face. It was, wow, I got to write all this stuff out. But I can tell you there has not been a single other action that I have taken in this business that has been more advantageous to my growth than doing an actual business plan. And a part of a business plan is your marketing plan. So marketing strategy is just one key part of it. It spells out the critical information on how a business will distinguish itself from competitors and what you as a team or as a business is going to aim to achieve. So again, that should be the expectation of what you should take away from this class today. Marketing plans, it identifies your target audience, most effective channels, which to engage with, analytics, insight, future, all sorts of stuff. I mean, there's a lot to do with a successful marketing plan. Now, again, that doesn't mean that we have to implement every single component of this marketing plan right away. Again, a lot of this is going to be a learning curve for everybody. So I really want to stress that as you are taking notes today, I'll send this deck out to you. You guys can, you know, make notes on this down the road, whatever you guys want to do. But I will just stress is that if you have questions, you need to reach out. And again, you don't necessarily have to speak up in this class. If you just want to give me a phone call, I'm totally cool with that. I would love nothing more than to help you guys out and help you avoid some of the pitfalls that even myself as a business owner had, and many like you have also had. But you have to make sure, again, listen, pay attention, take your notes, but then don't be afraid to speak up and ask questions. businesses, you need to have a comprehensive plan to coordinate your campaigns properly. The best analogy that I give, and if you attended our class on planning for 2023, is that omnichannel is a big component of marketing nowadays. And the example that I give is this: if you got one guy over here doing social media, you got another person over here doing the website, you got maybe somebody over here doing SEO or paid ads or this or that. The sad part is none of these guys really usually work together. None of them talk, none of them communicate. You're the catalyst as a business owner or as a marketer for all of that. And that can become a challenge. I mean, again, as a business owner, marketing's not necessarily your forte. And so what ends up happening is we wind up in a position to where this information is being communicated to you, and then you're trying to communicate it to somebody else, not having a full understanding of what that really looks like or what that is. And again, not to say you did anything wrong, it's just a lack of understanding. And so sometimes there is, a diminished return. There's a confusion that gets set in because of that miscommunication. So again, it's not a knock, but omnichannel is going to be a big portion of this. And part of that omnichannel, part of the process for that is developing a marketing plan, is understanding realistic expectations and who's doing what and this and that, all sorts of fun stuff. So we'll talk more about that. And the other thing to really remember too is it's a cumulative effort. This isn't a one and done thing. This isn't a marketing plan is not something that you set it and forget it and it does what it needs to do. This is a living, breathing thing. I tell everybody it's like a living document. It's something that needs constant attention. And that doesn't mean we're in there every day making adjustments. I probably make adjustments to mine quarterly, if not at least semi-annual at a bare minimum. But this is something that you guys really need to pay attention to, is that it's not something we shelve away under never look at again. It is something that we're going to want to revisit, and it's a cumulative effort, meaning there's multiple inputs to this in order to be successful. It's not, again, a one and done, set it and forget it thing. So next up, a strategy with a well-defined process is 466% more likely to deliver success. So hopefully you're noticing this trend, is that you need to clarify your KPIs. You need to understand what you're looking to get out of it. So we talk a lot about data. We talk a lot about, the whys behind things. And this is just one more component that you really need to pay attention to. And again, another statistic as to why you need to do this. Now, the vast majority of marketing plans out there consist of the 4 P's of marketing. I've been in this business for a long time, and so again, that's kind of ingrained in our heads, and we almost take it for granted, is product, price, place, and promotion. That's just your basic fundamentals of marketing when we're looking at it. So what product are we selling? How much will it cost? Where will we be selling the product? And how will we sell the product? Those are your basic ones. But I can tell you, in this game, there is so much more to defining what that marketing plan looks like, or that strategy, and there's more considerations now than ever before. So again, I think old school way of looking at marketing was, again, the 4 P's. We're going to open this up to the 8 P's. And so we're really going to look at people, the process, personalization, and physical evidence. Again, so people, who is going to be the perfect buyer for this product? You're going to hear me, if you ever do business with me, is you hear me say constantly, what is or who is our target demographic? That doesn't mean we won't sell to anybody, right? That doesn't mean that, if Bob Smith comes in my door today and, maybe he's not my target demographic, but I'll still sell to him, right? That there's nothing that precludes us from doing that. But there's always a target audience for everything. Who is our ideal client, and what does that look like? It could be an age, it could be, any number of things. And we can't shy away from the truth. If your product is best suited for females, that doesn't mean we're discriminating against men. That just means that that's our target audience, and we want to focus on that. We want all of that we can get, and then whatever is left over, we'll continue to target. But again, we want to hyper-focus our marketing efforts on our target demographic first, and then expand on. Processes. What processes will be used? There are a number of platforms and mediums out there now. My goodness, our universe in marketing has expanded. There's a fun graph. I'll try to find it one day and send it out. But big picture, there are literally thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of platforms out there for which to market. Some of which are not really applicable for small businesses, more enterprise level for us. And then there's some platforms that are ideal for small businesses. And again, and everything in between. So, understanding what's going to be used and what process you're going to use, or platform, or, whatnot. Super, super important. Personalization, another one, how we tailor our message. I cannot tell you how many times I will look at a message and I will provide feedback to that particular business and say, well, who's your target demographic? And then you look at the messaging, you're like, probably not going to fit that demographic. And the analogy that I use is that if we had, again, let's say an 18-year-old walk into our office or a 65-year-old, logically speaking, don't you think you would target those two differently? Don't you think you would promote or pitch your product in a different way? And for some businesses, that's no. Some businesses, it's consistent. But for the majority of us, that's going to be a completely different process. And what that demographic wants and needs, they're going to be very, very different. So we have to understand that level of personalization between that. And then physical evidence. What will the design be used for? What are we doing and what's it going to be used for to make our product more appealing? Imagery is everything nowadays. So that really, physical evidence really gets into the dynamic imagery of marketing. So videos, you name it. Again, could there be dual purposes? There's a lot of things that we can talk about there. So again, physical evidence, super, super important. Now, we're going to start next section in this, and this is where we're going to get our pens warmed up, is we're going to go through the individual steps of a marketing plan. And I hate to tell you guys this, it's not a sexy process. I try to throw like pictures and like fun stuff in there, but I can tell you it's boring. Like it's not meant to be sexy. But what I will tell you is the information provided is very relevant, and hopefully I'm going to educate you to help you better understand this. And again, I really, really encourage, as we're going through this, if you have questions, write those down, shoot me an email, give me a call after this. We can go through those individually. But without further ado, let's go ahead and start with the executive summary. So the executive summary, I'll give you my own real world experience with this type of stuff. And it's important that I do this because I want to put things into perspective, is that chances are, and I've always used this example in life, is that if I have this question, probably somebody else does too. I can't be the only one in this world with it. So realistically speaking, the executive summary, I sat back and I was like, oh, this is what I do. This is who I do. This is how, I take for granted my knowledge and experience and everything that has got me to where I'm at today. Again, if for some reason it just kind of slips your mind, you're like, oh, this is what I do. And so there have been numerous editions of our executive summary over the years. And that's not to say we did anything wrong the first time or right the first time. It's just, as we perfect our craft, we have perfected our executive summary as well. So consider this your story. I always like to say your marketing is a story of your brand. So, this is as it's told the customer. So it's like a narrative. It sets the tone. It sets really the expectation moving forward for everything. It's the why behind what we do. So when you look at this, again, it's going to outline the details of your business. There's a lot of components that go into the executive summary. So again, goals, what you're looking to do, areas of the business. There's a number of things. They should be smart. And that's the number one thing that I really want you guys to take away from this. When you're establishing your goals, they need to be specific, measurable, obtainable, and relevant and time-bound. So if you've ever heard of SMART goals, something I impress upon my staff constantly is that we need to make sure that we're setting goals, because if you don't know where you're going, it's going to be really, really difficult to get there. And so setting these goals in advance are all a part of the executive summary, is that what are we looking to achieve this year? These goals need to work together. They could be internal, external. They could be, there's a number of factors that go into this. So if you really want to dive into your executive summary, I always say it's the why behind what we do. And then it also includes the goals that we're looking to obtain. Now, there's also another step in here specifically for goals, which we will elaborate on this, but the executive summary is going to be that high level of what we're looking to achieve and the results that ultimately we're looking to obtain. As we move on to step 2. So step 2, identifying your target market. So again, if you've ever done business with me or heard me speak before, this is a huge one. And it's because it's not something that can be ignored anymore. Back in the day when it was, let's just use, when I started in this business, I actually started in the Yellow Pages, if you can remember back to those days. Believe it or not, still a very viable medium. Yellow Pages is still a great company. There's a lot of great stuff with it. But the big picture is, when you look at who your target audience is, if we were just using the Yellow Pages or print material or the newspaper, right, back in the day, well, that kind of reached all demographics. It was the omni-channel solution of its day. Now, there are so many different platforms, it's not enough. We can't just say, oh, well, I'm going to throw an ad in the newspaper, or, oh, I'm going to run a Yellow Page ad. That'll get you so far, but that's not going to necessarily reach your target demographic. So when we look at this, a target demographic or target audience is a group of consumers characterized by behaviors. So it could be behavior, specific demographics, and I gave some examples there. Female extreme athletes between 18 and 25. Great. Like if you can nail it down to that granular of a demographic, the more power to you. That's going to be fantastic. But these audiences really are a pillar of most business influence, like decision making. And what I mean by that is when we look at how we make decisions for the business, my number one pet peeve in this is always perception-based decisions. We always sit back and, a lot of business owners say, well, I think we're going to do this today. And I think we're going to run a Facebook ad. And I think we should do this, this, and this. And you sit back and, well, why? How did you arrive at that decision? Now, normally there's a process and there's some logic to that. But again, when you really break it down, you can identify those core elements of how you got to there, and you can refine that messaging. You can refine that impulse, if you will, into something more productive for the business. So when we look at this, again, I don't care if your business targets everybody and you'll do business with anybody and everybody. That's perfectly fine. But there's usually a target demographic that would be more advantageous for you to work with, or maybe you prefer to work with, that you really need to hyper focus on. And then once we get all of that we can get, then we can move on to other things. So again, it could be location, age, gender, employment, income. I mean, these are just a few limiters, but you can get as granular or as broad as you want in this. But I will tell you, the more granular you can get, the more you'll be able to define your messaging, the more you'll be able to define your medium, and all sorts of fun stuff. So really think this one through. Step 2 is probably one of the more important components of a successful marketing plan. Step 3, identify competitors. Now, this one, we all have perceived competitors, right? Well, I think the big national agencies are my competitor, but are they really? No, they're not. And the reason why they're not is because they do a completely different form of marketing. And that's not to say they're bad, good, terrible, good, and anywhere in between. That's just to say that they do things differently than I do, and their target demographic's not necessarily mine. So from a competitive perspective, we really need to identify competitors that also target our target audience. That's why step 2 is first. That's why when we look at this, identifying our target audience, because perceived competitors and actual competitors are two very, very different things. So no matter how original your product may be, there's always a competitor. Very, very, very seldom. And in fact, I can tell you, I only have one client that has a truly, I wouldn't even say truly, there are still competitors to them, but they have a very unique patented product that is specific to them. There are variants of it that ultimately do fall under our competitors, but again, big picture wise, very few are in that boat. If you're an insurance agent, there's a number of competitors out there for you. Now, and we'll use that example. If I was a PNC agent and I had an office here in Surprise, Arizona, great, is my competitor State Farm, Geico, Allstate, or is my competitor the agent down the road? Now, they may happen to work for Geico, Allstate, and all this stuff, but the reality is those national agencies are not necessarily our competitors. Why? Well, because they're going to outspend us 1,000,000 to 1. So that's not even relative. You wouldn't be able to really establish much from that connection. But more so than that, it's the individual agent that also has an office down the road that might be independent. They might work for this guy or that guy. That's the one that's taking our market share. So we want to be cognizant of that. We want to be able to really narrow down who our actual competitors are and not our perception. So when you're doing this, there's a variety of tools that you can use for this. Now, I can tell you in my world, I use one called SpyFu. There is a free version of that, so it's spyfu.com. And so SpyFu is a phenomenal resource where you can actually plug in URLs and you can actually look at, okay, well, who are they targeting? And really what's cool about that is you can see, all right, well, hey, I'm a property and casualty agent. I want to sell homeowners insurance. So what other homeowners insurance agents are there around me? You can nail that down and you can see, okay, well, here's some relative competitors, and you can actually start really digging down into what a competitor review looks like. But big picture wise, you have to understand your tools. So first and foremost, we understand our target demographic. Now we need to look at, okay, the who, what, when, where, whys of competitors. Who is ultimately targeting? So finding those specific broad keywords that might be relative to us is an easy way. So again, SpyFu. Again, and you can use this however you want. You can look at geographic area. There's a variety of ways to actually do your competitor analysis, but it's really important that you narrow down this focus to maybe 3 to 5 at the most. Again, the last thing I tell people, do not get a list of 25 competitors because you'll never get through it. You'll never get to the, the nuts and bolts of what you need to. But having a very crisp and concise competitor review will tell you what these people are all about, and really think about it like you do your business. you know, what kind of questions are important to you? And I'm actually going to give you some examples of those, but how are they targeting clients, so on and so forth. There's a lot to be gained from that. So when you create this basically landscape looks like this. This is how I would do a competitor analysis. How many businesses are offering something similar to me? And I always do it based on a geographic area. If we look at search as a whole, search, Google, however you want to, Bing, Yahoo, Yelp, all of these guys, they're geography based by nature. Okay, so that is our first customer, if you really think about it. So not putting the cart before the horse. I get it. We all want to get in front of consumers, but you can't get in front of consumers anymore unless you get in front of Google first. Google has to love you in order to rank you, in order to ultimately get you in front of those consumers. So our first customer is Google. Google, being a geography-based search engine, means that it's going to pull from our area first. Yes, there could be national competitors in there, but we're looking for those local guys that are ultimately showing up, that are taking our real estate away from us, okay? So how many businesses are offering something similar to us? Okay, so in my general area, if I'm an insurance agent, there might be 50, okay? So how many businesses will our brand be in direct competition with? Well, now it's time to start rooting things out. And again, this is all about getting to know your competition. We might really have to take a step and look at, okay, well, these guys do this, this, and this, and they focus on more business insurance. Okay, so really not our competition per se. They focus more over here. So start narrowing down that list. How large is the market? So who are we competing against? And then how many people are actually searching in this? Because again, there can be 50 competitors in this market, but there are a million searches going on. Well, maybe there could be, maybe you could stand to gain a few competitors. I mean, and obviously not. We don't want that. But you get the idea, is that there's usually more than enough business to go around. There's a really cool tool that we use called KW Finder. So KW Finder is a quick, easy way to do searches. And I can put in anything from insurance agent, and I can nail down by geography. I can say insurance agent in Surprise, Arizona. And that'll give me a list of keywords that are most commonly searched in my area. And then I can also see the search results from that to understand, okay, who's showing up, who's ranking for that. So again, this is all a part of your competitor review. Other things, what trends are growing in the market? So what do consumers expect now? That, the demands of consumers are first and foremost. That's, we have to solve a need in order to earn somebody's business. So is the market growing? Are we decreasing? What are you looking at here? How much are customers already paying for similar services? We need to have a competitive review. If you're looking at the other agent down the road, insurance is a little easier to do, I guess, maybe than some. But again, if our rates are here and their rates are there, well, you have to be able to speak to that, because you don't always have to be the most affordable business on the block. We don't need that Amazon effect. That's completely false. That's, a lot of people think, oh, well, I got to lower my prices because of this. Untrue. There's a lot of factors that go into pricing. And again, solving a need is first and foremost, but what is it that we offer that's different from these competitors? So next question, how much are customers willing to pay for similar offerings? So again, not everybody's going to the cheap guy on the block. Not everybody shops at Amazon. Not everybody goes to Walmart. There's plenty of people out there that use Target, Kohl's, you name it. I mean, so that's not the only option out there, even though, you might say to yourself, oh, well, I just go to Amazon, or, oh, I'll just go down the road to Walmart. They're cheaper. People still shop at Kohl's, Target, and all these other stores all day long. And last but not least is, what does the sales cycle look like? So when you look at your sales cycle, again, some are shorter, some are longer. If you're a retail store, somebody comes in, somebody comes out. I mean, there's really not a lot to it. But if you're an insurance business, how long do people think about the promotion you just had? How long do people have to stew on stuff? I can tell you, in the marketing business, our sales cycle usually is about 30 to 45 days. I think that that's a perfectly reasonable frame to expect a business to meet, understand what we do, ask questions, whatever it is that goes on in their process, maybe cancel an existing contract that's in place. I think 30 to 45 days is a perfectly reasonable and customary time frame. Now, your business might be different, but understanding that will help you put things into perspective. Now, once we understand our our competitors, now it's time to start positioning ourselves, because now you've done the time. You know who we're competing with. You've narrowed down this list of 3 to 5 people that you would love nothing more than to, ruin on Google, let's just say. So now we need to start figuring out, how are we going to position ourselves to those consumers or to our target audience? So ultimately, your brand and what it symbolizes, this is your strongest advantage. This is why I say pricing is not everything. And this is a common misconception in business. You need to set realistic expectations. And part of that is going to be, okay, if our pricing, in order to stay competitive, in order to make this worthwhile, let's just say, sometimes you can't be the cheapest game in town, and that's okay. So again, how you position yourself is going to either make or break you as a business, or make or break this marketing strategy as it pertains to what we're going over today. So you should be able to write a simple sentence that really just helps people differentiate you. That's it. I mean, a paragraph even. It doesn't have to be a sentence. But the best positioning statements focus on solving a problem for a consumer and promotes the value. So again, value, again, I really want to reinforce this, does not mean affordability. So again, I just put a little fun, stupid picture, sorry, as I scroll through. Discover what matters, know your competitors, stand for something, stay consistent. A big one that I'm going to put in here, little side note, pro tip, however you want to describe it, is really from that brand value proposition is we have to look at humanizing the brand, especially as small businesses or medium-sized businesses, it really doesn't matter. The way that we can stand out from the crowd is really how we humanize the brand. And what that means is, what do we give back to the community? What is, I mean, it's not all about, you know, the price or the product. You know, a lot of people, they love, as small business owners, I can tell you, that's one of our best qualities is that we get it. We're small business owners too. My wife and I, we understand. We understand what it's like to go through the struggles. We understand what it's like with employees and payroll and all the demands and working 60, 70, 80 hours a week sometimes. And so that's an asset to us, and we need to embrace that. As small business owners too, we employ people in the community. A lot of people want to get behind that. They really love that because, I mean, the reality is, if you look at Walmart, who's the face behind Walmart? If you look at Amazon, who's the face behind Amazon? There is no face. There's nobody. I mean, I guess Jeff Bezos, but you know, the reality is nobody can really find what he looks like unless you follow him on the news. But big picture wise, as small business owners, we are the fabric of the community, and people get behind that. We're parts of chambers of commerce. We give back to soccer clubs and all sorts of stuff. So really humanizing that brand is a huge asset for us as business owners. And that's something that I feel needs to be a part of that marketing mix. It needs to be a part of our brand messaging. And there's a lot of ways you can do that. So we can have another class on that one, but just don't forget that aspect of your positioning statement. Next up, we're going to set some goals. So again, we talked about that briefly in the executive summary. Setting goals is super, super important, right? If you don't know where you're going, it's going to be really, really hard to get there. So again, some examples of goals might be attracting customers, retaining customers. A lot of the times we focus on lead gen, but I can tell you lead generation, it's much more effective and much more affordable for us as business owners to work on retaining clients. So marketing plans, common misconception, are not all about growth per se. Sometimes we have marketing plans or marketing strategies for retention. So again, attracting customers, retaining customers. We might want to increase website traffic. We might want to increase social media, online sales, in-store sales. We might want to improve online conversion. Like I said, there's any number of ways you can slice and dice this. Marketing plans are not this big, broad umbrella. Rather than you can break these down to individual components. I have off the top of my head, 7 or 8 different marketing plans out there that I run concurrently. Again, none of them overlap. All of them have their own specific thing. And I even actually have a marketing plan for hiring, for employment. That's a big one right now. Again, a lot of people struggle for quality employees. I have one because I have a rock star team, so I can attest it works when you do it right. So, but big picture wise, define your goals. Make sure you understand what is it that we're looking to do. These could be short term or these could be long term. So some of my marketing plans, they may run 90 days. They may run 6 months. Other ones may run 5 years. So again, our big broad, let's call big broad strategy, that's a 5-year plan. And we're doing great. We're on track. So again, we'll talk about evaluations here in just a minute. Next up, defining your approach. So again, your approach, this is going to be what channels are we using? So when we talk about approach, again, we can slice and dice this. You'll hear people talk about channels, mediums, platforms. I don't care what verbiage you want to use. The big picture is, how are we going to accomplish our goals? How are we going to get there? So this could be, oh, I'm going to, Facebook. Okay, great. So there's multiple components of Facebook. How are we going to do this? Is it going to be ads? Is it going to be content? Is it going to be video? Is it going to be pictures? What does that approach look like? So to really nail this down, it might be, and I'm just going to give you a made up one here, but it might be something where, okay, I want to grow my business. I want to increase it by 10 times this year. I want to grow my business tenfold this year. If I have 100 clients, I want 1,000 by the end of the year. How am I going to get there? So I got my goals. I got my general broad overview. So defining that approach might include multiple platforms at the same time. Might include just one. Maybe I do a marketing plan that just focuses on Facebook. You could do it that way, or you could have a broad approach saying, okay, I'm going to use Google Ads and Facebook, and breaking those out individually to show what that approach looks like. I might run $500 a month on Google, and here's my expectation for that. And I might run $1,000 on Facebook, and here's the ad creative, and here's how I'm going to do that. So defining your approach is really similar to defining your target audience, but it's going to help you get a better understanding of what platforms you're going to use and how you're going to evaluate those platforms. And I'm going to show you a few of them here in just a minute, but we're going to talk more specifically about measurements here in a minute. But again, in this defining your approach, you need to have a broad understanding of what your expectation is for those particular mediums to make sure that it equates to that goal that you set. Now, these are some of the various platforms, channels that are out there. So online advertising, you have pay-per-click ads, banner ads, text ads, partnerships, great. You might use email marketing, print advertising, social networking, blogging, directories, live networking. You might have some grassroots channels in there, SEO or search engine optimization. You might go trade show or PR. So like I said, this is just like a handful, right? There's hundreds more. I will give you my pro tip in that where I find myself to be more successful is instead of that broad approach to planning, I break mine down by platform. So each of these different areas, each of these different channels will yield a certain result. So when we look at online advertising and pay-per-click advertising, I can set realistic budgets, goals of what I'm looking to accomplish on that. So it's a little bit more manageable. I have always found for me as a business owner is that when I go too broad, it becomes a little bit more challenging to really dissect the analytics behind it and understand what my ROI was from that. Versus if I hyper focus on these channels and I say, okay, this marketing plan I'm going to put together is only for pay-per-click, and this is what I want to accomplish, and this is how I want to accomplish it, and this is my expectation. That's how I do mine. Now, again, there's not a right or wrong way. It's if you prefer, if you're just starting out and you say, okay, I'm going to just do one broad umbrella, they might include many of these things. Again, I just always say it might be a little bit more difficult to understand the analytics down the road. So again, not a right or wrong way. So once we've selected this, so now we're going to start moving on to budgeting. Okay, so budgeting, super simple, really not rocket science in this. It's all right if we understand what our goals are, we understand what platforms we're going to use, and you're going to have to do some research on the platforms. You're going to have to understand if you select pay-per-click, you're going to have to understand, okay, what are the components that make up pay-per-click advertising? And as a business owner, you need to understand this. You cannot leave it to somebody like me as the marketing guy to just tell you everything, right? Because yes, I have the numbers, yes, I can give those to you, but that's only one component. You as a business owner, if you want to get the biggest bang for your buck, then probably one of the best pieces of advice I can give you is do yourself the favor of educating yourself. Take an online course. Again, you don't need to be a marketer, you don't need to be a professional, marketer, but having a vague understanding of what it is that you're going after or how you're going after it, I can tell you is priceless. Even to the point where for our clients, I even recommend, hey, I would recommend you go out and take a Google Analytics course. Not because I want you to be an expert and do what I can do, but honestly, it's going to help you get better results. When you understand what I'm talking about as a marketing guy, I can tell you'll be able to help me make awesome decisions for your business. So the same principle applies if you're doing this on your own. Really take time to think about what is it that you want to do and why do you want to do that? Because maybe if you're researching doing paid ads because you want to grow your business by 10 times this year, well, maybe paid ads isn't the right channel because you know what? In the big grand scheme of things, it's going to be way too expensive. And so, okay, so let's find another channel to get there. So educating yourself on these things is really honestly going to be well worth your time. Most of these classes, like you can go HubSpot, there's a few, Udemy, Google even has some free classes. YouTube, I'll tell you, some of the most brilliant people in the world that I've met with that I tell them they graduated from YouTube University because there are some amazing classes on there. But again, just get a broad understanding of what it is that you're trying to do. So paid ads, go take a little 1-hour course and help you better understand the components of paid advertising and how, most importantly, to budget for it. Same thing with search engine optimization, email marketing, social media. There's a lot of different components of social media, and I can tell you, most people have a very jaded view of what social media is and should be and what it should do for your business. I can tell you countless clients come into us and say, oh, I want to run a social campaign. Oh, my buddy down the road, he grew his business 25 times last year, and he did it all on the back of social media. Probably not true, and probably way more to that story than you know about. So if you educate yourself, you can help discern fact from fiction. So just pro tip there, that's what I would recommend. But budgeting. So you got to understand this stuff in order to understand how to budget. A lot of people, and again, just using real world examples, I'll have doctors, lawyers, you name it, they'll come. And to me, I get it. If you come to a marketing guy and you say, hey, I got $1,500 a month to spend on this, I know how much that is. And I know that's a lot of money, because trust me, it doesn't come easy for us either. But I can also tell you is that if we're competing, let's just use a lawyer. If you're a DUI attorney, right? Well, I can go to Google and I can see how much the average cost per click is on a paid ad. I can see, you can go to KW Finder and use that. You can use SpyFu. There's a variety of free tools out there that you can use to discern what is the average cost per click. So if I look to do paid ads and I say, hey, Chris, I want to do some paid ads on DUI attorney, and I got $1,500 a month to work with. Well, if the average cost per click is $500, probably not going to be what you expected. Now, again, if you're only looking maybe for one case a month, maybe it will. I don't know. But probably not going to yield the results you're looking for. So again, just being realistic with our expectations and making sure that the marketing plan has the best possibility for success. The last thing I want to do is get all the way through this marketing plan, and then at the end of it, it's, okay, well, we couldn't even accomplish this goal if we try because we just didn't have all the information. So again, just do yourself a favor and do the research in advance. So when you're doing this marketing questions, we know that this is going to require money. Sometimes money is in the form of labor, right? I may say, if I'm a retail business, I may budget marketing dollars to pay for an employee to go spin a sign on the street. That needs a marketing plan. I hate to say that, but you need to be able to measure this type of stuff. So when you're doing this, you always have to have in the back of your mind, okay, it's great to say I want to do this and this is how I want to accomplish it, and then I'm going to put this much money to it. So I got a budget now, but what was I looking for realistically? What was my expectation? So putting the money, making sure that it's measurable, absolutely critical. So consider your budget when creating a plan, and again, this is a living, breathing thing. So back to what we said at the beginning, marketing budgets change, sometimes for the positive, sometimes for the negative. We got to be realistic with the nature or state of our business. So for me, beginning of the year, market budget looked great, right? Oh man, we're going to grow our business by 10 times and we're going to spend this much money on marketing. Sometimes you hit roadblocks, you hit things like you have to make adjustments. So, and again, we don't need to wait for something to fail in order to say, oh, well, I really shouldn't have spent that much money on this, right? This is all a part of the process. So when you're drafting your plan, you need to be evaluating your course of action. You need to have estimated costs. And again, we say estimated because that's exactly what they are at this point. We need to have estimated costs, and do yourself a favor. Like for me, I don't mind when people call and ask questions. I love questions. Why? Because it tells me that you're doing your homework and you are the exact client that I want. That is 100% the truth. I don't want the person, and it's not to be offensive. It's not meant to discredit anybody. And I do understand sometimes people just don't have the time for this stuff. But I can tell you my target audience is the client that's engaged, is the client that they want to know, they want to learn, they want to be involved in the process, because I can tell you those are the clients that don't leave me. Why? Because they value the work that I do and they understand how hard it was for us to get to this point or to do what it is we do. So that's my target audience. And again, that's broad, but that's what we look for in a potential client. So what are you looking for? You have to be able to answer that question. Last but not least is going to be our defining metrics. And this is probably the hardest portion of the whole thing. Why? Because it requires that analytic portion, and that's not everybody's forte. The evaluation of your campaigns, I can tell you, is super critical. You have to be able to measure, okay? So for Google Analytics, that's my number one source. I always tell every client, if you do not know Google Analytics, you need to take a course. And again, I don't need you to be an expert. I need you to take the course because I need you to understand what you're looking at. When we look at Google Analytics, believe it or not, it tells us a lot of information. And some of the most basic stuff that we can look for from a digital perspective is, how did somebody come into us? Where did they find us? Was it Google, Yahoo, Bing, Facebook? Who knows? But you have to be able to answer that, right? Because if you're running campaigns and let's say you're funneling people to your website, because oftentimes, let's face it, the website is the first place that people come in contact with us. So if we're looking at the website and we're saying, okay, well, hey, 5,000 people came to my site, but I only got like 2 orders in last month. What's going on, Chris? Well, the first thing I'm going to look at is, how do they come into us? How did they get to your website? Next thing I'm going to ask is, what did they do on my website? Because now what you can look at is, well, if you had 1,500 leads from Facebook and 79% of those bounced off your website without taking an action, and then these, let's just say 10% of those did this, and another 5% did that, you can literally start breaking down what people are doing. You can find where your area of opportunity is. Because if 79 people are bouncing off the site, let's dive into that. Let's talk about it. Because chances are probably something we could have done to maybe tune it up a bit, maybe get a better conversion rate off of this, a number of things that can come up from the data. So analytics is a very, very, very important thing. The other thing we can find in there is waste. There might be, geographies that are not advantageous for us. With the best of intentions, most people go in and they'll set up let's just use paid ads or social for that matter. They'll set up campaigns in the broad level target and they say, oh, my search radius, 25 miles. Well, if you're in the city of Phoenix, you know exactly how long it takes to get 25 miles in the city. And I can tell you, I will plan for about an hour commute each way. That sucks. And if you're in another major metro, same thing. You're going to run into these problems constantly. So one of the questions I always ask my clients is this. I say, how far is somebody willing to travel for your service? Now, most clients will say, oh, I have people that come from all over the place and this and that and this and that. Where do most people come from? I understand you might have that outlier that came 75 miles for whatever it is you do. That's fine. But what's the norm? 5, 10 maybe? What's realistic? Because I can tell you in a major metro, the reality is most people, we're comfortable with commuting about 30 minutes unless you have a rural specialty product. So you might want to consider that where you're marketing. Because again, I always teach a concept of own your home first. Own that region around where you're at, because that's your hottest leads. That's the leads that are most likely to convert, and then we work our way out. Eventually, you hit that point where there's a diminishing return, and you start, okay, well, there we go. We hit our pendulum. Now we're good. This is where we're going to hyper focus our marketing efforts. It all comes through data. So understanding Google Analytics to me is probably one of the single most important things you can do. Other units of measure that you might consider: if you have a newsletter sign up on your website, maybe that's important to you. How many people got entered into your CRM? How many forms were filled out? Did you increase your number of impressions or your online visibility? A lot of the times, especially with SEO, people don't understand what the reality of SEO is. When we look at SEO, it's not necessarily a measure of the number of people coming to the website, but it's how visible is the website now. Because again, in theory, the numbers will follow there. So again, online visibility, how many people connected with you on social, or engagement rates? Did you have a revenue increase? Sometimes, again, with the best of intentions, we say, oh, I want to double my business. I want to have 1,000 new clients this year. Well, is it 1,000 clients or is it a revenue target that you're looking to hit? Because those are two very different things. So maybe you hit your revenue target at 100 extra clients. That doesn't mean we stop. I get that. But that's an important thing to consider when you're doing your evaluations. Is it a revenue target or is it a quantity target? I can tell you in my marketing plan, I have marketing plans for both. There's a inherent value behind quantity, because those people are more likely to refer me now, so I can definitely pull a revenue benefit off of it in the long run. I have a plan for growth in terms of quantity, because I know 1 in 10 clients is going to refer us. So again, you can put your metrics around that. So again, understanding these evaluation tools is really, really important. And then also to prepare a SWOT analysis. You need to make sure that you look and you can evaluate these metrics at any given time. Be able to break them down, because if you can't, then how do you know this is working? And again, Some marketing plans, it's pretty easy. If you do like let's just say you did a marketing plan for a 30-day campaign. Great. 30 days, that's not a long time. So it's pretty easy to discern how well it is or isn't going. But if you're doing a 5-year plan, gosh, are you on track? Aren't you on track? Where are your points? Where are you trying to hit? Where should you be? Where are your benchmarks? So being able to look at that and do a SWOT analysis on it is super, super important. If you don't know what a SWOT analysis is, again, Google it. It's super easy. Not really that difficult to break down, but when you put things in writing, I can tell you, for me, I can speak from my perspective, is that it really helps me visualize that big picture. So that's why I'm a big fan of, a lot of people say, well, I'll just do everything in a spreadsheet and this and that. Okay, that works for some. Me, I do spreadsheets and I write things down. I literally sit there and I got to draw stuff out, and sometimes it doesn't make a lot of sense, but to me it does. Eventually, again, breaking that down to a SWOT analysis is really where you're able to make incremental changes and really discern, are we on track, are we not? Marketing plans, by the way, and just to kind of pro tip this is not meant to be like, I did a marketing plan, I got to see it through to the end. That is not the point of a marketing plan. A marketing plan is established to be a guideline for you and to make sure that you have measurable and obtainable goals, results, whatever it is you're looking to do. The reality of it is, not all of our, despite our best intentions, not all marketing plans are going to be successful. So you need to have these evaluation points to make sure that things are on track. The last thing I want anybody doing is wasting money. But this is how we determine, are we successful or utilizing our resources in the best way possible? This right here is going to help you get there. So some pro tips to wrap up today. Again, ask questions. You are not going to have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. I promise you that. I'd love to think I do. And again, ask my wife. She thinks I know everything some days. But reality, I don't. And I use Google. I use all sorts of resources. I ask my staff questions. You name it. I get everybody engaged because honestly, 2 minds are better than 1. The more questions you ask, the more successful I think you're going to be. Don't try to think of everything yourself. You aren't going to. So this is where, if you're, let's say you're looking for a marketing partner out there, you're looking for somebody to help you grow your business. Don't just interview one client. Don't just take a class like this and hire No Boundaries because you thought this presentation was great. Evaluate, reach out, get different perspectives on things. Because again, even within my staff, and this is what I value most about my people, is that Xavier may have one opinion, I may have another, Chelsea may have another, Callie may have another, my wife may have another. It's part of coming together as a collective that ultimately makes amazing decisions. Because again, despite my tenure in this business, I can't think of everything. And sometimes, projects are just too close to us. Sometimes we just overthink things. So it's really, really important to get an outsider's perspective. Next thing, stick to the plan and keep changing it. This is something, these are not set it and forget it programs. These are not things that, are static. You need to make sure. And again, if you've done a successful marketing plan, you're going to have benchmarks or evaluation points, and those evaluation points are going to see, are you on track or aren't you? You may go in with the best data possible, and you got 5 different marketers that say, hey, here's this and this, and you should do this, and you came up with an amazing plan, and something changes in the market, something happens, new competitors come in. There's so many different things that can happen, and so you got to be able to pivot. And so that's a term that we use quite often around here is how do we pivot? Do we need more budget to this? Maybe it makes sense because in order to accomplish our goals, we need to add another $1,000 a month to this program. Don't know. Might be the answer. Might be just the opposite. Hey, you know what? We're spending $1,500. I need to take $500 away, and we need to do this, this, and this, and maybe segment our demographic down a little bit more. Great, but you got to have those benchmarks and you got to have those points to pivot from. So again, if you're doing campaigns, I always say, best evaluation tool for me is always 30 days. Now, if that's a little bit too long, meaning, you might need something a little bit more, we'll say hyper-focused, don't do any less than 7 days. A 7-day evaluation, that's really, really tough because I can tell you, oftentimes, especially with paid ads and social and things like that, you're not going to see the benefits of what you did for at least 7 to 14 days. So, there's no point in evaluating it every 7 days. It's just unrealistic. Some campaigns would warrant a 7-day review. So again, you're going to have to look at how you set up your marketing plan and what you're doing to determine, is it effective, isn't it effective? Email marketing is one. A lot of people come and say, oh, I send out an email every week. And I think to myself, oh my goodness, like I would unsubscribe from that. That's just me though. some people may love it. You're going to have to look at and evaluate on a weekly basis how many people are unsubscribing and subscribing to your program to see, does that make sense? So that would be an appropriate use of a 7-day evaluation period. Most of the time though, 30 days is really the norm in the business. And the minimum that I like to do, it doesn't mean that I don't do less, but the minimum I like to do is usually a 90-day plan, because then the first 30 days is really kind of that trial and error. After that point, I've made enough optimizations and I've changed around my plan to where, okay, now we should be cooking with fire. And then at that 60-day, I've made small additional tweaks to really fine tune it. That last 30 days of the campaign should be fairly well dialed in. And then at that point, I may extend it for another 90 days. But I got the base right here and I got a winning formula to go to market. So again, these things are constantly needing to pivot. We've already said this, they're living, breathing documents, should be updated frequently. Again, a marketing plan doesn't have an expiration date. They never should. So again, you can use marketing plans over and over and over again. This isn't, again, you don't just do this and then, okay, I did it. Have a great day. No, we recycle this stuff because this takes a lot of time. This takes a lot of effort, a lot of energy. There may be components of a marketing plan that get reevaluated at different increments, like competitor analysis, target demographic, goals, all sorts of stuff. So this is why when you write it out, these are all meant to be changed down the road and over time. You may do, let's say you have a seasonal business. You may have, based on seasonality, you market during this time period. Great. So then during this, we're not using it. Next year, we come back to it and we update it and we get it back into the groove of things. So like I said, you got to be able to pivot and adapt. The last pro tip that I'll throw you is SMART goals. You got to make sure, if you don't know where you're going, I don't know what to tell you. I mean, even the best marketer in the world can't get you there. So you got to make sure you understand, where are you growing as a business and what are you looking to accomplish. The most successful businesses that I've ever marketed for, I'll tell you, have some amazing, well-documented goals. Some of the biggest struggles that I have had in business and marketing for other businesses have come from businesses that just can't write a goal for the life of them. So goal setting is a really, really, really important aspect of any marketing strategy, and one that I would think would be worth your time doing a little extra training on if you don't know what those are or how to establish good goals. And I can tell you, even with my own staff, I got some rock stars. I'll tell you, I'd put them up against some of the best in the business. Some of them at one point in time, couldn't write a goal for the life of them. And that's okay. Everybody's at different points in their careers. And so making sure that we provide that support is super, super important to me. So again, do yourself a favor, just go take a quick little course on it. So we will go ahead now. That's enough of me yapping. So I'm going to open it up. We got a couple of minutes. I know this is tight, but if anybody has any questions, you can throw it in the chat. Otherwise, I'm open to phone calls. I can do that all day too. If you got any questions, just unmute yourself. Otherwise, throw it in the chat. If not, I'll take emails, phone calls, smoke signals, you name it. I'm an open book.
I have a quick question for you, actually, Chris. In step 2, you were mentioning, sorry, step 3, you were mentioning identify competitors, and you were mentioning a couple of different ways that we can do that: Google, KW Finder, and then there was a FIFO or FIFO. What was that one called again?
FIFO. So let me share my screen again here. So this is one that we use right here. Cool part is, like, I can plug in my domain. I'll just show you mine. This is one that you can see where we're at. Yep, what we're doing. Most importantly, you can come down here and see what Google perceives as your competition. And again, I haven't even logged into it yet. And you get an incredible amount of data just for free. So you can try that out. You can see here what these people are targeting. Again, what I'm missing out on, all sorts of stuff. So there's a lot of cool stuff. Now, again, I will tell you, do not ride home with this. This is not a guarantee. This does not mean that that's who my literal competitors are. We want to try to use as many sources as we can, realistically, 3 to 5 at the most. This is the other one we use, is KW Finder. And so I can put in here marketing agency, and I can type in, you want to get granular here. So Surprise, if I could spell, Surprise, Arizona. And this is going to break down that data specific for my geography. So within my city, and I can see over here who's ranking right now. Well, now I have a better idea of who Google perceives my competitors to be, so I can take a look at them. Doesn't mean it's going to be gold, but again, it's just one more data set to work from.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Do you have any, Rachel, do you have any suggestions as far as a good YouTube video educator like I spoke about? So I can tell you HubSpot is a pretty legit start. A lot of marketers use it. I put my own people through that. I will tell you, these guys have some great training courses. Again, they are trying to sell you something at the end of the day. But if you come under here, under resources, you can look under free courses and certifications. Great information here. So I got to hand it to them. HubSpot Academy does a great job at this. Udemy is another one. I do believe you got to pay for that, though. I think they give you a free trial for a certain amount of time. But you can come in here and really just educate till you're blue in the face. Also, too, with YouTube, I don't have any specific channels that Search Engine Journal, Search Engine Marketer. Those are some really good ones to follow. This might be a little bit too high level for the average entrepreneur, but again, for me as a marketer, I rely on that stuff to keep up to date on things. So again, over time, I think it might be of better value, but I would start with HubSpot and work my way up from there. All righty, guys, it is 1:02, so I will lock it down here. If you guys have any questions, any concerns, anything that you guys want to go over, please don't hesitate to give me a call. Otherwise, I appreciate you guys joining. We got some great classes coming up, Facebook, TikTok, you name it. So register for those. We're all here to educate. So I appreciate your time, and I hope you have a wonderful day.